Eternal Egypt, flowing in the ageless cycle of time. A cycle of death in the hostile desert, rebirth in the mighty Nile. For over 2,000 years, ancient Egyptians believed that their dead set sail on a sacred journey to a wondrous afterlife. Today, their monuments speak to us of miracle and mystery. For more than 30 years, one explorer traveled on a relentless personal odyssey, seeking a pathway toward the distant past. In the end, he would be rewarded with ancient Egypt's most brilliant bequest. Howard Carter would find the tomb of Tutankhamun and gaze upon the face of Pharaoh. On the plateau of Giza, mighty pharaohs announced their majesty with one of the wonders of the world, the pyramids. Ancient Egyptian religion holds that Pharaoh is not only a man and a king, but an immortal god. When he dies, the monarch is outfitted for eternity with food, clothing, and magnificent treasure, not out of vanity, but to ensure the king's passage to the afterlife. But for some Egyptians, greed overwhelms faith. Every pyramid, no matter how carefully guarded, is robbed almost immediately. In 1570 BC, the burial site of the pharaohs is moved up the Nile to a desolate canyon that will become known as the Valley of the Kings. The site is 400 miles south of the Great Pyramids of Giza. Tombs are cut into solid rock, then hidden under mountains of debris. The penalty for tomb robbery is death, but even here, the lure of golden treasure is too great. The Valley of the Kings is looted and sacked. As the majesty of ancient Egypt wanes and the empire crumbles, the valley is bypassed by time. But then, another wave of invaders arrives. Men like the American Theodore Davis find the remnants of plundered tombs. In 1914, Davis gives up, declaring that the Valley of the Kings holds no more secrets. Howard Carter will labor for the next 8 years to prove him wrong. Carter is a young English artist who first comes to Egypt in the 1890s. He absorbs the skills of archaeology, and he imagines the valley in the age of magnificent burials and desperate crimes.
Strange sights the valley must have seen, and desperate the ventures that took place in it. One can imagine the plotting for days beforehand, the secret rendezvous on the cliff by night, a bribing, drugging of a cemetery guard, the desperate burrowing in the dark. By providing his mummy with the elaborate and costly outfits which he thought essential to his dignity, the king was himself encompassing his destruction. The temptation was too great.
For years, Carter watches the fortune seekers come and go. He yearns for his chance in the valley, but he doesn't have the money to mount a full-scale search. Carter is not a transient treasure hunter. He learns Arabic. A man of few friends who never marries, Carter chooses a life apart. In 1908, Carter's life is at a low ebb. He's selling paintings to tourists, but he never gives up his dream to thoroughly excavate the Valley of the Kings. In an English country castle, the man who will share Carter's quest, George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert. The Lord Carnarvon has developed a passion for Egyptian art. He dabbles in excavation and needs an experienced archaeologist to supervise his digs. In 1909, Carnarvon hires Howard Carter to select sites and hire workmen where he feels there are treasures to be found. It is the biggest break in Carter's career. Carnarvon will spend the equivalent of millions of dollars, hiring hundreds of laborers and constructing a home for Carter on the edge of the valley. In 1914, Carnarvon secures the license to dig in the valley that Theodore Davis has surrendered as worthless. Now it's up to Howard Carter to succeed where others in a century of searching have failed. The labor of his life has begun.
It's true that you may find less in the valley than in any other site in Egypt, but if a lucky strike be made, you will be repaid for years and years of dull and unprofitable work.
But the First World War intervenes. Britain and Turkey, Egypt's occupying powers, are enemies at war. All excavation is halted in the Valley of the Kings. For Carter, the war affords an opportunity for planning. He studies the record for evidence of a missing king. One name does not appear.
I will state that we had definite hopes of finding the tomb of Tutankhamun. We were thoroughly convinced in our own minds that it ought to be situated not far from the center of the valley.
Tutankhamun, a king who came to the throne of Egypt in an age of turmoil and revolution. Today it's believed that Tutankhamun was the son of radical pharaoh Akhenaten, who declared the disk of the sun to be the only god and ordered that all other gods be forsaken. The result was chaos. For 17 years, Akhenaten ruled a fractured Egypt. One of his wives was Nefertiti, a queen of legendary beauty. But when the pharaoh died, his one-god religion died with him. Carter knows Akhenaten's successor was the mysterious Tutankhamun, who ruled for only a few years and then vanished from history. In 1917, Egypt is firmly in British hands. Carter can resume his work. Carter's plan is methodical and backbreaking. Using the newly developed wartime technique of grid bombing, he divides the valley into small sections so that no doorway, no staircase can go overlooked. If there is a royal tomb, Howard Carter will find it.
Many thousands of tons of surface debris would have to be removed before we could hope to find anything. And even if there was nothing else to go upon, it was a chance we were quite willing to take.
1917, 18, 19. The valley's treasures elude Carter, just as they had eluded all who came before him. In 1920, Carnarvon and his daughter, Lady Evelyn, arrived to inspect a meager find of pottery jars and to question the wisdom of continuing the search at all.
We had now dug in the valley for several seasons with extremely scanty results, and it became a much debated question whether we should continue the work and try for a more profitable site elsewhere. After all these barren years, were we justified in going on with it?
The post-war years have not been kind to the English aristocracy, and digging dry holes in Egypt is an expensive undertaking. Carter is continually afraid of being cut off by his patron. (1920) 21. Carter's makeshift railway has moved thousands of tons of debris, and still nothing of value. In the summer of 1922, Carter must return to England on a visit he is dreading. Carnarvon's patience and his money are running out, but Carter is still convinced he can find the tomb of Tutankhamun. Only a small area remains to be probed. If Tutankhamun lies in the valley, he must be here. Carnarvon relents. He will finance one final dig in the Valley of the Kings. Carter returns to Egypt in November 1922. He brings with him a pet canary whose brilliant plumage amazes his workmen. His servant Abdel declares the bird to be an omen of glittering treasure.
It is a bird of gold that will bring luck. This year we will find, inshallah, a tomb full of gold.
Three days later, Howard Carter rides into the valley as he has 1,000 times before. But today, his life will change forever.
Let me try to tell the story of it all. The unusual silence made me realize something out of the ordinary had happened.
The workers have uncovered a stone staircase just a few yards from a popular tourist attraction, the burial chamber of Ramses VI.
I almost dared to hope that we had found our tomb at last. Work progressed more rapidly now. Step succeeded step. Toward sunset, there was disclosed the upper part of a doorway. With excitement growing to fever heat, I searched the seal impressions on the door for evidence of the identity of the owner, but could find no name. Was it the actual tomb of the king for whom I'd spent so many years in search?
His Egyptian workers call it the Tomb of the Golden Bird. Has Carter's canary brought good luck? The next morning, Carter sends an optimistic telegram to Lord Carnarvon in England.
At last have made wonderful discovery in the valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact. Congratulations, Carter.
Carter is obliged to wait for his patron to arrive. His spirit swings from excitement to despair. He does not yet know whether he has found a plundered tomb or a magic tunnel to the ancient world. In November 1922, in Egypt's desolate Valley of the Kings, the English archaeologist Howard Carter has uncovered a doorway lost for 3,000 years. But what lies behind the sealed door? Is it the fabulous tomb of the Golden Bird his workmen believe?
There was always the horrible possibility that the tomb was an unfinished one, never completed and never used. If it had been finished, there was the depressing probability that it had been completely plundered in ancient times.
This agonizing mystery haunts Carter for over 2 weeks as his patron, Lord Carnarvon, makes his long journey from England, accompanied by his daughter, Lady Evelyn. It is a voyage Carnarvon has made many times before, but now the stakes are at their highest. The train ride up the Nile brings him to the valley that has fueled Carter's obsession for a quarter-century and drained Carnarvon's fortune for 6 frustrating years. On November 23rd, exhausted, yet too exhilarated to rest, they head across the Nile and straight to the work site. The digging continues. The doorway exposed. On it, the seal of Tutankhamun. Carter's perseverance has paid off at last. At this instant of triumph, Carter notices something. It is a crushing blow.
There had been 2 successive openings and reclosings of a part of its surface. The tomb, then, was not absolutely intact as we had hoped. Plunderers had entered it, and more than once.
The work continues frantically. What lies beyond? A passageway filled with rubble and rock. 3 days later, the corridor has been cleared. For the first time in 3,000 years, human footsteps echo through this silent passage to the dead. Beyond another sealed door lies a world of riches, or of ruins.
With trembling hands, I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner. Widening the hole of the door, I peered in. At first, I could see nothing. Details from the room slowly emerged from the mist. I was struck dumb with amazement, and when Lord Carnarvon inquired anxiously, "Can you see anything?" it was all I could do to get out the words, "Yes, wonderful things."
Inside lies splendor such as modern eyes have never seen. Yet something they sense is missing.
It dawned upon our bewildered brains that in all this medley of objects before us, there was no coffin nor trace of a mummy. I noticed for the first time that between the 2 black sentinel statues on the right, there was another sealed doorway. The explanation finally dawned upon us. We were but on the threshold of our discovery. What we saw was merely an antechamber. Behind the guarded door, there were to be other chambers, and in one of them, we should find the pharaoh lying.
The truth staggers them. An intact royal tomb. Intact but not untouched, shortly after the royal funeral, robbers carried off boxes of gems and jeweled gifts. But what they left behind is overwhelming. The king's chariots, gilded couches, previously glimpsed only in paintings on the walls of barren tombs. Egg-shaped boxes of meat and fowl to sustain Pharaoh on his journey. And touching memorial bouquets, placed moments before the doorways were sealed. The tomb is a cluster of small rooms. A hole leads to one that Carter calls the Annex. But it is the sealed vault between two guardian statues that burns in their minds.
We debated far into the night the possibilities of what might lie beyond it. Visions of chamber after chamber, each crowded with objects like the one we had seen, passed through our minds and left us gasping for breath. I think we slept but little that night.
In fact, they do not sleep at all. Secretly, they return to the tomb, desperate to learn if Pharaoh himself still lies beyond the sealed wall. What they find is breathtaking. The seals are intact. They now know that Pharaoh awaits them, shrouded within a wall of gold. The untouched clay seals of the ancient priests proved that the tomb robbers never desecrated the royal shrine. Ancient Egypt is about to speak its most sacred secrets. An immutable cosmic order in which Pharaoh is both man and God. At Pharaoh's death, the universe is in disarray. Egyptian religion demands that the proper rituals are performed, the incantations spoken, the mummy preserved. Only then can heaven and earth regain their stable rhythm. Hundreds of sovereigns make this divine passage, but only one endures to dazzle modern eyes: Tutankhamun. But before Pharaoh awakes, Carter will endure years of labor, heartbreak, tragedy, and triumph. In the winter of 1922, the discovery of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun bursts upon the world. Crowds of reporters, tourists, and dignitaries invade the once silent Valley of the Kings. Suddenly, Howard Carter, a distant, solitary man, must contend with unending waves of the curious. Despite the mobs, Carter acts with extraordinary patience. He orders that every item in the tomb be meticulously catalogued and conserved. Lord Carnarvon predicts this will keep Carter busy for weeks. In fact, it will consume his life for the next 10 years. A team from New York's Metropolitan Museum is working nearby. Carter hires the museum's photographer, Harry Burton. Every item in the tomb is numbered and photographed by